Okay, hi everybody, we're back again. Uh, Thank you to the students who are still following my lessons despite of the instructions of Education Ministry about passing all the students to the next level. That means my students have a desire to educate themselves, and this is a big evidence about how my students smart are. Now we are going to study and revise with you um, the previous lessons of the second semesters. During the revision, we have to solve the questions of the sheets and finishing all of the pages, and that will help us to memorize all of the previous lessons easily. Okay, let's start with the first question, and this is the sheet here. Okay, and I have to solve it with you. Okay, let's see the first question. Okay, question number 1, unit 4, lesson 1. Okay, write the scientific term all living and non-living things in one area. If you remember, the definition is for what exactly? All living and non-living things in one area. You can't find it where exactly. This is the area. It's explain everything that's surrounding you. By the way, living things like what exactly? If you try to remember the living things, plants, animals, you. All of these are examples of what? Of living things. What about non-living things? Trees, maybe, soil, rocks, water. Examples of what? Of non-living things. So it's combine what exactly? Living and non-living in one area. Okay, living and non-living things in one area, and this is it, the example of what exactly? The environment. Okay, so I have to reduce the size here in case to write the complete scientific term here. Okay, so I have to write here environment. Okay, it's enough. So this is the first definition. Okay, let's go to the next one here. All of the living and non-living things in area and their interactions. Okay, how they interact with each other. Okay, guys, how they depend on each other. Okay, in food or in shelters or whatever. So this is, we call it what exactly? The ecosystem. Okay, guys, all of the living and non-living things in one area and their interactions. Okay, their interaction between each other. That's what we mean. So they depend on each other for what? For finding food or shelters or whatever. Okay, guys, so for that reason I have to write here, when we say that the interactions between the living and non-living things, it's mean what? It's mean the ecosystem. Okay, fine. We know that there are so many examples of ecosystems in our environment. Okay, guys, like what exactly? If you remember, ecosystem of what exactly? If you remember, ecosystem of polar ecosystem, or desert ecosystem, or forest ecosystems, ocean ecosystem. All of these examples of what? Of ecosystems. Okay, guys, which one of them are very cold and dry? This is example of which kind of ecosystem. That kind you find it always in the where exactly? In the polar pool. In the polar pool, right, guys? So it's called what exactly? It's cold and dry. It's the polar ecosystem. Okay, guys, polar ecosystem. Polar ecosystem. Polar ecosystem. Okay, ecosystems where the weather is always warm and wet. Is the ecosystem where the weather is always what? Warm and wet is what exactly? Here they give you descriptions about some ecosystems by mention their the temperature and the landform of what? Of the ecosystem, or of a specific ecosystem. So from this description of this ecosystem, you have to understand is which exactly. So we have to write here the rain ecosystem. Is the rain ecosystem? Okay, the rain, or the rainforest. Sorry, rainforest ecosystem. The rainforest ecosystem. Okay, it's called the rainforest ecosystem. Okay, the last one, number 5, ecosystem that have a greatest diversity of what? Of plants, where you can find too much plants and trees. Okay, guys, where and also you can find too much plants and trees, water, food resource. You will find always living, so many kinds of living things like animals. Okay, guys. So this is what exactly example of what? Of tropical. Okay, tropical tropical rainforest. Okay, tropical rain forest. I have to find the specific name of the forest. Okay, yes. Okay, let's go now to the next question here. So I'm trying now to find for you a chart or something like that that explains the parts of our environment, starting from the environment itself to ecosystem. Okay, let's see here. Environment, ecosystem, because I want to show you some charts that what let you memorize everything that's related to what exactly to our environment. So you can see here this image is like what no, it's not clear. I'm trying to find something different here. So what if we have to find it's what exactly here? This is the ecosystem. They give us only an example of ecosystems. I am looking for something different here. Okay, there's a chart. Okay, no problem, no need. But anyway, we can say this is an example of what? Of environment. Okay, guys, this is example of environment where you can find what exactly different kinds of ecosystem, the bound ecosystem, the forest ecosystem, even the droplet of water is example of ecosystem. Okay, guys, a droplet of water is example of ecosystem. If you remove the rock, under the rock you will find ecosystem, by the way. So all of these are examples of what? Of ecosystems. Okay, so it's enough. Okay, let's go now to solve the question number 2. Question number 2, put true or false. Few plants are found in Africa's savanna ecosystems. Do you think that it's correct, guys, about savanna ecosystem? If you don't understand what does mean of savanna ecosystem, I have to show it. I show you here what does mean of savanna ecosystem. Savanna ecosystems. Savanna ecosystem. Savanna ecosystem. This is the example of savanna ecosystem. This one or this one. All of these are examples of savanna ecosystem where you can find deers, elephants, tigers, or sorry, lions here in Africa. So you will find a few kinds of plants and trees. Do you think that is correct about the savanna? I don't think so. So what is the correct one? So this one is false, sure, because the correct one is what exactly? The correct one is not in Africa savanna ecosystem. You should write what? You have to underline this one or cross this statement and write, instead of savanna ecosystems, you have to write what? Desert. Okay, desert ecosystem. The desert ecosystem is dry and what? With few plants. With a few plants. Okay, with the what? With a few plants. Or we can write polar ecosystem. Polar ecosystem also it's correct about something that where you can find only few plants and what? And dry. Okay, few plants and dry and cold, it's what? It's polar ecosystem or desert ecosystem, but it's not the savanna ecosystem. Okay, guys, let's go to the next question now. All parts of an ecosystem are connected. All the parts of an ecosystem are what? Connected to each other. Do you think that it's correct? Sure, it's correct. Okay, guys, because you know that the parts of ecosystem is connected with each other because there is what? Interactions between them. For that reason, they are what? The parts of the ecosystem is connected. Okay, because there is interaction, right? So let's go now down a little bit. Let's see here. Okay, yes, we have too much questions here. Okay, With a large ecosystem, there are what bigger ecosystem. With a large ecosystem, there's what bigger ecosystems. I think this one is not correct because there are smaller ecosystem, not bigger ecosystem. With a large ecosystem, there is a smaller ecosystem. We mean that I will explain it here what we mean about that. But let's say that this one is false. But I have to say, okay, it's false. Why it's false, guys? Because you have to correct this one. Not bigger ecosystems, smaller ecosystems. Why smaller ecosystem? Because why, guys? See here. Is this okay? Because example, this is the savanna ecosystem. Okay, the tree is considered to be smaller ecosystem of savanna. Okay, guys, this is the savanna ecosystem, and inside the savanna ecosystem you will find rocks, you will find trees, bones. All of these are what exactly? Are smaller ecosystems. So in each ecosystem, in each big ecosystem, you will find smaller ecosystems. Like what exactly? The tree. The tree is example of, by the way, of a smaller ecosystem. You can, because here you can find some insects and small animals that live inside this tree. Okay, guys, birds where they build the nest on the trees or on the branches of the trees. So this is the smaller ecosystem. Also, I told you that many times, even the droplet of water, it's considered to be as a smaller ecosystem. The rock, small rock, if you remove the small rock from the ground, you will find under the small rock what small insects and some living things that live under the rock. So it's considered to be a smaller ecosystem. So all of these, so each ecosystem have what? Each ecosystem has a smaller ecosystem. Each ecosystem has what? Smaller ecosystem. Okay. Niche is the physical part of the ecosystem. Do you think that it's correct about niche? Niche is what? Example of what? Or is a physical part of ecosystem. Niche is what? Is a physical part of each ecosystem is what? Is not correct, because niche is talking about the rule or the function of some animals or living things in that ecosystem. Okay, guys, so for that reason is what is not physical, it's behavioral part of the ecosystem. Okay, guys, how the animals are interact with each other. But if we say that this one is wrong niche, we have to write what exactly is not niche, habitat. Okay, guys, the habitat is the correct one about the physical part of the ecosystem. So I have to write here what? False, and the correct one, you have to cross this one or underline this one. Instead of niche, you have to write what? Habitat ecosystem. Okay, let's go to the next one. Some animals change niche during their life cycle. Some animals change their niche during the life cycle. So they think that it's correct about some animals that changing their niche about of the ecosystem, or some animals change niche during their life cycle. It's correct, yes. Like what? The example of the frog. The frog live where? As a tadpole inside the pond, right? Eating only the algae, okay, or some seaweed inside the pond, because you know that there are seaweeds or some plants or algae. It's considered to be like a producer, any kind of producer, the tadpoles that eat it. Okay, when this is during the life cycle of what? Of the tadpoles. When the tadpoles change to something like a young frog, or like adult frog, it's starting to live where? On the edge of the pond, and starting to eat what? They changing their what? Their behavioral interactions and starting to eat something different. Like what exactly? Like the insects. Okay, guys, so for that reason, if I want to give you example of the frog's life cycle, let's see here. Okay, frog's life cycle. Okay, yes, this one is fine. Okay, so So that this is the frog's life cycle. When the frogs are tadpoles, or they still breathing by the gills, they live where exactly? Inside the bones. Okay guys, inside where? Inside the bones. Okay, inside the bones. They eating what? Something like algae or seaweeds. Okay, but after they starting to grow and become like adult frogs, they starting to change their habitat, and they live where exactly? Instead of living inside the bones, they will live what? On the edge of the bones. Okay, in the edge of the bones, and starting to eat something like insects. Okay guys, because they changing their what? They changing their behaviors, and they starting to eat something different. Okay guys, the frogs starting to eat something like insects. Okay guys, this is what we mean. So this is the example of how some animals change niche during their life cycle. Okay, so this one is what some animals change their niches during their life cycle, is what is true about this one. This one is true. Okay, this one is what? True. Tadpoles live at the water edge and breathe through lungs. This one is correct about the tadpoles. I told you that many times. The tadpoles live at the water edge. Water edge is not inside the water, but water edge, and breathe through what? Lungs. See again. Let's see again. This is correct about the tadpoles here. It has lungs and live in the edge of the bones. If you don't understand what does mean of edge of the bone, this is the bones. Okay, bones. Okay, bones. Okay, no, let's say lakes or something like this. Lakes. Okay, lakes or bones, all of these. So where the frogs live. So, okay, here for examples. So here you will find the frogs living in that area, or in this place exactly, in the bones ecosystem, or the water or lake ecosystem. So the first in the beginning, or in the beginning of the life cycle of the frogs, the tadpoles live inside the water. But when the frogs, or when the tadpoles gets bigger and starting to what? To breathe during their lungs instead of gills, they will live where exactly? On the edge of the what? Of the lake here, or bounds here. So they starting to eat something different, like what? Like insects. Okay guys, so for that reason the tadpoles don't live at the water edge, and they what? They don't breathe through their lungs by but they live what? They breathe through what? Through the gill, something we call it gill. So for that reason this one is false. This is false, and you have to cross this one and write what? You have to write frogs instead of what? Of writing tadpoles. The way of organism interact with the habitat and gets food and shelters are part of what? Of its niche. So I told you that many times. Though the way of organism interacts with the habitat and gets food and shelter is a part of the niche. Like the frogs here, when the frogs changing their what? They're changing their shelters from inside the water to what? To the edge of what? Of the water here. So this is example of what? Of changing their shelters and changing what? Their habitat about food. So before they were eating what exactly? The seaweeds or algae, and then they changing their habitat and starting to eat in something different, like what? Insects, when they live in the edge of the bones. For that reason this one is what? Is true about what? About frogs, or about some animals that changing their what? Their interactions. Okay, so this is example of niche. Okay, let's go down a little bit to see here. Okay, community is all of the organisms that live in the same place. Community, all of the organisms that live in the same place. Do you think that it's correct about community? Community is all of the organisms that live in the same place. Community is all of the organisms that that live in the same place. It's correct. Yes, it's correct, because the community, it's what considered to be all of the animals that is that live in the same ecosystem, in the same place, or in the same ecosystem. Like what? Like the savanna here. If you see here the savanna, I think I have to find it here again. See, yes, this is the savanna ecosystem here, where you can find what exactly, what the kinds of animal that you will find it here. Grass. Or what kind of living things that you will find it here. Grass, giraffe, elephant, zebra, lions, vultures, all of these, the African savanna, or where all of these, it is a what? This is the community. This is considered to be a community, because why, guys? Because different kinds of living things that live in the same place, or in the same ecosystem. Okay, guys? So also this one is the example. Also see here zebra with some lions and some bison, or some kinds of animals. Okay, all of them are a group of animals that live in the same place. Okay, guys, for that reason this one is considered to be what? True. Let's go to the question number 3 and starting to solve what? To solve the multiple choices here, and you have to select the correct answer. Okay, so here they are in a in the rainforest, or in the rainforest. Why do plants and animals thrive in a great diversity? So in the rainforest, the weather is cold because, or the weather is cold and wet, or the weather is warm and wet, or the weather is what? Cold and dry. Do you think which one is the correct about the great diversity of what? Of animals that live in a specific place. Why, guys? Because the weather is what exactly there? Is warm and wet. This is the correct answer. Warm and wet. It's mean there's what? Enough resource of what? Of food and water. For that reason I have to select this one. Let's go down now. Which identifies the non-living and living things, which identifies the non-living things parts important in all ecosystems. Let's see here. They give you so many examples or some choices, and you have to select the appropriate one. Air, heat, rocks, water, and soil. This thing is not true. Let's see. Air, water, soil, and weather. Okay, this one I think is more true about the important something important that, or some elements that important in the ecosystem. Air, it's correct. Weather, soil, and water. Soil, it's because the soil is important, water is important, air is important for the animals to breathe. Weather also, if the weather is good for the animals, sure the plants will grow more and more, like if the weather is warm and wet. Okay, guys, this is example. Salt, temperature, sunlight, heat, rocks. No, this one is wrong. No, what? The salt element is not related to something that important to the animals. Okay, water, soil, sunlight, rocks. Okay, shade. No, this one is not correct. So the second one is the correct one. Okay, guys. So the second one is the correct one. The most important elements for the living things or non-living things are the most important non-living things elements is what exactly? The air to breathe, the water to drink, and the soil to grow the plants and seeds, and the weather for what? To help the plants to grow more and more. Like if because the plants, you know that the plant and the trees need for what? For a wet and warm weather or ecosystem to what? To grow more. Okay, guys. So without wet, it means there is enough water. That's what we mean. For that reason, the weather will help the plants to what? To grow more. Okay, guys. Like what? The rainforest. Like the rainforest. Okay. Let's solve that question number 3. All of the living and non-living things in area and their interactions. This is example of what, guys? I told you that many times. If their interactions, they depend on each other. Okay, this is mean the what exactly? The ecosystem. Okay, guys, the ecosystem is what? The interactions. Okay, the interactions between living and non-living things. So this is the correct one. All the organisms that live in the same place, all of the organisms that live in the same place, frogs, birds, and plants, in at a bound. Okay, guys, this is example of what? This is example of what? I think it's so easy, and I explain it now. Try to think before I solve it. Is the community, guys, is the community where I told you different kinds of animals that live in the same place, like the bound ecosystem, where you can find what exactly? Like the bound ecosystem where you can find frogs, fish, seaweed, turtles. So different kinds of animal, you can find them in the same what ecosystem, which is the pond ecosystem, the pond ecosystem. Let's go down. Number 5, a group of the same type of individual in the ecosystem. Same type of individuals in ecosystem. If you remember that, a group of animals of the same species of animals that live in one ecosystem, like what? Like a group of elephants or a group of wolves that they live in what? In the mountain ecosystem. We know that the wolves live there exactly in the mountain ecosystems. Okay, guys, so there are what? A group of them, they live there. Or elephant that live, the group of elephants that live where exactly? That live in the savanna, African savanna, in the African savanna ecosystem. Or zebra. See here, a group of zebras that live where? In the savanna ecosystem. A group of what? Of deers that live in the savanna ecosystem. All of these are what? Examples of what? Of a group of animals that live where? In a same place. This is what we call it populations, if you remember. So this one is what? Is the population. So I have to select this one. Population is a group of animals that live where? In the same place. A group of animals that live in the same place. A group of the same type or same species of individuals in the ecosystem is what? It's the population. Okay, population. Because they're asking you in specific ecosystem like savanna. So you can find in savanna a group of animals like what? A group of elephants in savanna, a group of zebra in savanna, a group of lions in savanna. All of these are examples of what? Of populations that you find them where? In a specific ecosystem. Okay, number 6, a group of elephants living on the savanna. Okay, group of elephants that live in savanna ecosystem is example of what? Of population. Okay, guys, a group, because they asking you about a group of the same type of animals that live in the same place. This is the population. Okay, guys, because I told you that the population, the definition of the population is what? A group of the same type of individuals in the same ecosystem. This is the population. Okay, number 7, any living things that makes its own food. If you remember, or make the process of what? Of photosynthesis. Okay, guys, this is what we call it, the producer. Okay, plants is what? Producer. Physical part of the ecosystems that meets the needs of an organism. Okay, the physical part of the ecosystem that meets the needs of the organism is example of what, guys? The physical part of ecosystem that meets the needs of the organism is example of what? The physical part. When we say that the physical part is not niche or population or producer, is something we call it what? Habitat, where animals can find what? Their shelters. Okay, guys, so this is the physical part of what? Of the ecosystem is the habitat. Let's go down and see the other questions. Yes, okay, living things that breaks down waste and the remains of plants and animals of energy. If you don't know what does mean of that, what is the living things that help to break down or decompose what? The living things, the dead body of animals and plants, if you remember. Okay, decomposers, we call them what? Decomposers. Okay, decomposers are example of what? Of living things that what? Break down other living things. Decomposers. Let's see here, decomposers. Okay, so this is the decomposers images. Yes, like fungi, like bacteria, worms, or so all of these are what? This is examples of what? of decomposers, because they break down what? They break down other living things, and it depends on other living things to absorb the nutrients from them. Our other dead body of living things. Okay, guys, the dead body of what? Of living things. So bacteria, some insects, or snails, all of them, or fungi, all of these are example of what? Of decomposers that decompose the dead body of animals. Okay, guys, so decomposer. Okay, this one we have to select something we call decomposer. Okay, let's go down and see what we have here also. 10. Which statement is true? Which statement is true about the community? About what? About the community here. So is what exactly? Is a community is all of the same species living in different ecosystems? Or a community is made up of one kind of population living in one place? Or is a community, it's made up of different population that depends on each other? Or a community is made up different population and do not interact with each other? Do you think which one of them is correct about community? I think that C, letter C, is correct, because community is made up of what? Of different population. It's correct. Like a group of elephants, group of zebra, group, like I am talking now about the example of community like what? Savannah community, where you can find a group of elephants, group of zebra, group of deers, group of lions, group of different populations. Okay, that depends one on one another. Okay, for example, the lions without deers or elephants, they will what? Well, they will not survive, because the lions depends on other living things like deers or zebras in case of what? Of hunting them, right? So for that reason, this one is correct. I think this one is correct. Okay, this picture shows the life cycle of a frog. How does a frog's net change when it's what? Fully grown. Okay, what do you think? Which one of these choices are a good example about the definition here? So the young frog breathes through gills, or the adult frog uses gills to breathe. Adult frog doesn't use gills, is starting to use something like lungs. Next one is not correct. The young frogs breathe through gills. Young frogs, also even the young frogs is the young frog doesn't use something like gills, because the tadpoles, only the tadpoles are using gills here. So the adult frogs live where? In the water. Do you think that the adult frogs live inside the water? This is the adult frog live in the water here? No, no, the adult frogs, this one, the adult frog, they said that the adult frogs live where? Inside the water. No, this one is not correct. Sure, the young frogs live in the water and eats insects. The young frogs lives in the water and eats insect. The young frogs, yes, maybe this one is correct about the young frogs. They starting to live where? They live in water and eat some insects. Okay, let's see here before I start to select this one, because maybe there's here the young frogs breathe through gills. No, the adult frog uses gills to breathe. Also this one and this one is not correct. Okay, so I think the correct one is letter D. The young frogs live in the water and eats what? Insects. Okay, guys. Okay, no, or not this one. I will tell you why. Because it should be what? Not in water, in the edge of the water. So for that reason, this one is not correct. Okay, let's see here. I think this one is not correct. I have to select this one. The young frog breathes through what? Through the gills. The young frogs here, it's mean the tadpoles. They mean here, I think the tadpoles. This is the young frogs. Okay, the young of the frogs. The young of the frogs are what exactly? Is the tadpoles. They what? They breathe by what? By the gills. If you also, by the way, we solve it maybe by mistake in the booklet, if you remember that. I think in the booklet we select this one, letter D, so we have to change it and select letter A. This is, I think it's correct more about the frogs here, because the frogs, I told you, the young frogs is not is they mean here the young frogs is mean the tadpole. Okay, the tadpole is example of what, of the young frogs. Okay guys, the young frogs of, or the young of the frogs are what, are the tadpole. And the tadpole, we know that they breathe by what, by the, or through what exactly, through their what, their gills. Okay, okay. In a swamp, archerfish live among what? Mangroves, the tree roots. Okay, okay. This is a kind of fish that live where exactly? In the tree roots. Okay, inside the bones. Okay, in or near the water. Heron feed on fish and frogs and insects. Which term describe each group of what, of living things? Let's see here. So, which term describe each group of living things? We sure we are talking about something, we call it what? Population. Each group of ecosystem or each group of living things is what, is each group of the same individuals are what, of our populations. Ecosystem have what? Producer, consumers, and decomposers. Why are producer important in what, in ecosystem? Why the producer are important in ecosystem? It's considered to be, by the way, is the first link, the first link of the food chain. For that reason is what, is important. Okay guys, because the producers are important. Why guys? Producers are important because it's considered to be the first link of the food chain. Okay guys, but they asking you because why it's important, also because it produce food for the consumer. So for that reason it's considered to be the first link of the ecosystem. For that reason I have to select this one, the produce food for the consumers. Okay guys, so this one is what is the correct one. What is any living things that make its own food? Sure, is the producer. They what, they make the process of what, of photosynthesis. Okay, let's stop here. It's enough for us. Thank you for listening, and good.